You're locked into the Liberty Flames podcast, powered by Rogers Heating and Cooling, servicing Greater Lynchburg's HVAC and electrical needs. Schedule your service today at callrogers.com. Get ready for double coverage with Nick Pierce and Pat Kelly, the weekly podcast that takes you inside Flames football and around the nation before game day. Now, alongside former Flames All-Conference wide receiver Pat Kelly, here's your host, Nick Pierce.
Well, they say that absence makes the heart grow fonder. Our absence last week hopefully made you more fond of us. We are back, though. This is double coverage. I'm Nick Pierce. He's Pat Kelly, and we're here to talk Flames football once again as we head down the home stretch. The month of November coming now, and Liberty with 5 games left. Huge one this weekend, Conference USA clash with the Delaware Blue Hens. And it will be homecoming as well at Williams Stadium in Lynchburg. So glad you would stop by here on the show this week. I'm Nick Pierce. He's Pat Kelly. And this is double coverage on the Liberty Flames podcast, powered by Rogers Heating and Cooling. No shortage of things to talk about here this week. As I told you, big game coming up on Saturday. We'll talk about what the Flames did during the bye week, how they spent their time getting better and getting more prepared. And we'll also update you on some injuries, which unfortunately we've got plenty to talk about there as well. But, Pat, first things first, how are you? I missed you.
Nick, it's good to be back on camera here with you. Hopefully good to see you in the stadium on Saturday. But I'm good. We drove back yesterday from Georgia. My wife had a work function. I had to go be solo dad in the hotel room while she did her business stuff. So I'm glad to be back in my own house. But you mentioned November. How the heck are we already in November? It's like all year long, we're just dying for football season to return. August and September get here, and it's like, yes, it's finally here, and you blink, and the season's halfway over.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we're coming down the home stretch with all these conference races and conference championship games to be decided, college football playoff implications for a lot of teams. And then other teams are just trying to figure out who's going to coach their team next. I mean, I feel like we've had about 6 guys fired since the last time you and I talked, but there's so much that we could hit on here. We're going to keep the focus somewhat narrowed to Liberty here this week. But, man, there's just a lot going on in the world of college football. And, as we talk about getting into the month of November, a guy that you used to play for, Turner Gill, used to have a saying about November, something like they remember or you're remembered for what you do in November or something along those lines.
I thought you were going to say remember the 5th of November or something like that. I was like, that was not Turner Gill that said that.
But it sounds good.
It does.
Yeah, so you are remembered. I mean, this is where the memories are made, though, and this is where we find out who the contenders are and who are the pretenders.
No, you're exactly right. I mean, you basically, at this point, you have kind of found out your team's identity. You have been able to kind of, I guess you could say, realize other teams' identities as well. Unfortunately, in my case, I'm a lifelong LSU fan, and they have shown us who they are. But yeah, I mean, this really is kind of when the rubber meets the road. Bill Gillespie, former strength coach. I mean, I really feel like this is kind of where he made his money in years past, getting our previous Liberty teams so conditioned and ready for that final fight of the season, the kind of the back half. And I think the numbers that we had when we played certainly spoke to that. The team seemed to get stronger as the season went along. So you're exactly right. This is when you prove who you are. And thankfully, Liberty has an opportunity to still accomplish its goals of winning this conference.
Yeah, you got big-time meaningful games. It's funny you mentioned the LSU thing. Before I got to Liberty, I was a Virginia Tech fan, going back to the Michael Vick days. Both of those programs are looking for head coaches right now. How crazy is that?
You never would have thought. I mean, it's been 2 programs that have been pretty stable for the course of, forever, with Frank Beamer being there since the Ice Age. And then, LSU kind of just with some continued dominance with different coaches between Saban, Les Miles, and I want to say Coach O was dominant, but brought another national title. So
a national title, right?
Yeah. So it's weird to see these teams just in flux like they are.
Well, you look at this weekend for Liberty, huge matchup, as you said. The Flames have everything in front of them still here, and one of a handful of one-loss teams in the conference right now. You still got 2 undefeateds as well, with Jacksonville State at 4-0 now after their win the other night over Middle Tennessee. That was not a guarantee game by any stretch either. MTSU gave the Gamecocks all they could handle. Kennesaw State also getting a win this week as well, so those 2 are unbeaten. Liberty and Western Kentucky, one loss each at the time of this taping. Missouri State playing well. Flames will see them next week. So a whole lot to play for here. Delaware, a team that is in its transitional year, 4-3. That's the opponent for the Flames here this weekend, and 2-2 in the conference. They cannot play for the conference championship. They cannot play in a bowl game. That's part of their transition. But still, nonetheless, this is a team that's kind of burst onto the scene here and created a lot of attention for itself. And we're going to chop them up here in just a little bit. But, you know, Pat, with it being homecoming weekend, with it being Hall of Fame weekend, there's a whole lot of other side roads we could take here and different topics we could get into. But we were talking before we came on here, and you mentioned your homecoming games were usually pretty kind to you, right?
Yeah, I don't know if the coaches just decided, hey, he's a hometown guy. Let's kind of reward him for homecoming here. But yeah, 3 of my 4 years at Liberty, I was able to score a touchdown on homecoming, so that was always fun. If we could have played homecoming games every week, maybe I'd be in the NFL right now.
Yeah.
But no, all those homecoming games were such a blast. I definitely remember the last one that I played in, a big come from behind win against Gardner Webb, and oddly enough, we were 0-4. Kind of like Liberty's gone on this cold streak a little bit. So my senior season, we were 0-4. We had the homecoming game, big time comeback against Gardner Webb. It was just a blast to play in front of an awesome student section, packed stadium. A lot of fond memories of homecoming with my teammates. But yeah, I appreciate, Nick, you throwing this agenda topic in here to talk a little homecoming successes on the field.
Yeah, I'd like to say I did it on purpose. But, now thinking back on it, I do remember you having some good ball games and homecoming. But I remember that Gardner Webb game specifically, what you're talking about, because that team was sitting there staring 0-5 in the face. I mean, what was that, about a 17, 18-point deficit?
I think you're right. I think it was 17 points, and I don't know if we scored all our whole comeback was in the fourth quarter, but it was certainly like late into the third, going into the fourth. We converted on it was a flag concept. Not that we're going to nerd out here over all the details, but it was a fourth down touchdown conversion. I went in the end zone and hugged Sparky. I actually have a couple pictures of that semi-frequently get sent to me of like, what were you doing?
Hugging
we
the
had a
first
couple
person you saw.
Exactly. We had a couple 2-point conversions that we converted in that game. That was an absolute thriller. I wish we could have dominated a little bit more from the beginning, but that was a fun game to be in. So that game definitely stands out as a homecoming memory for me. Oh, we also just beat the absolute trash out of Coastal Carolina one year. It was like 63 to something. Josh Norman was on that team, who went on to play in the NFL. So that was fun too, and it came against a rival. So that one certainly stands out as well.
I'm pretty sure that was 2011, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I think it was. Was it? Let me take a look at my notes here. I think that was maybe 2011. Charleston Southern was the year before that. So a lot of success on homecoming for this school.
Absolutely. The 2011, yeah, that was 63-27 Flames over a then 20th ranked Coastal Carolina. And was that the game, and we're going to talk about him here in a minute, Mike Brown, is that the game he threw the halfback pass to Chris Summers, or am I confusing Coastal years? Maybe that was 09.
Nick, selfishly, I'm just going to call out that I had a 50-yard touchdown reception that game, so that's all I remember.
Did.
I think Des Rice scored in that game as well, former teammate of mine. We wore the black uniforms that afternoon, so that's another reason that the game stands out. A lot of good homecoming memories. They're all coming flooding back here.
I think I am confused. I think 09 was the halfback pass from Brown to Summers, because Tommy Beecher was the starting quarterback that year. But we all knew what Mike could do. And yeah, I see your 50-yarder. I will say your 50-yarder came at an irrelevant point in the game.
Nick, no touchdown from me is ever irrelevant. All right,
it was like 49-21 at that point. Hey, I'd celebrate it too. The 50-yarder in the third quarter, you guys just poured it on that day. 63-27 over Coastal. What were your final numbers that day?
We don't need to dig into that. We should just talk about the 50-yard touchdown. Just leave it right there.
Well, Mike Brown was 218 and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, he had a good one for sure. Nick, one thing that I'll say,
you were good. Three catches, 64 yards, and a tutty.
Hey, we'll take it. Fantasy numbers, that's okay.
Yeah.
I'll never
Absolutely.
forget though, Nick, the play before that, we had a play, we lined up in spread. So we had four receivers, we had a back in the backfield, and we were running a play called Z option. So I had the option to run a hitch, a slant, or to run a vertical. I ran a hitch and Mike kind of threw it a little bit behind me. I caught the ball. Josh Norman wrapped me up, lifted me up like WWE wrestling style. I won't say the vulgarities that he said mid tackle, slammed me on the ground, and stood over me for a minute. That was one or two plays before the touchdown. So it felt good to get a little redemption.
You got your get back.
You had to.
Well, we mentioned Mike, and of course, he's one of 7 inductees into the Liberty Athletics Hall of Fame this weekend. That's another piece around this game. Got the Hall of Fame induction ceremony on Friday night. He is the football representative this year. Unfortunate he won't be with us, but I understand why. Mike is obviously an assistant coach at Notre Dame. They've got a game in Chestnut Hill at Boston College this weekend, so Mike won't be with us. We're going to effort trying to get him on the podcast here, though, in the next week or so, and try to talk about his induction to the Liberty Athletics Hall of Fame, because Lord knows he meant so much to this football program, to this school. Guy who went on to play in the NFL, now coaching at an elite level. That guy's going to be a head coach one day if he wants it. I mean, I just think that the sky's the limit for Mike Brown. So excited for him. Jesse Sanders, another guy, is a friend of mine. I think a friend of yours too. Played on the basketball team here at Liberty. Only guy with like 4 triple doubles in 4 years. And then there's so many others. I mean, just a star-studded class. You think about Brant Tolsma, the most successful head coach in Liberty athletics history, bar none. You just go look up the accolades. I mean, just so many great folks that are going to be back here this weekend. Homecoming's always a lot of fun. You meet up with your friends and family or your former classmates, and then you see all these great athletes coming back. There's going to be so many good vibes around the stadium here this weekend. Should be a great crowd as well. I understand there's a lot of tickets out for the game. I think over 12,000 tickets out, not counting student section, walk-ups on Saturday. I mean, this is going to be over 20,000 people. So you're going to have a great crowd. You got a meaningful football game, and the Flames are coming off a bye week. I mean, all of this is the synergy here, Pat, is setting up for something good, right?
You'd like to think so. I mean, you mentioned at the very beginning, absence makes the heart grow fonder. Flames have been off for a little bit. You're coming off of a win, so homecoming's always a time you get a lot of people on campus anyway. Thankfully, a couple of these losses early in the season, now that we're in Conference USA, you still have the conference to play for. Nick, I know you and we've talked a lot of times about, do you stay independent? Do you go to a conference? This is definitely a benefit of being in a conference, even though you've had a couple losses early in the year. You've only had one in conference. You've still got everything out there to play for. So it's a hugely consequential game.
Yeah, and you look at the Flames trying to stay with just the one loss in conference play. I mean, we've talked before about, only one loss doesn't write you off, even 2 losses necessarily, but you don't want to have that extra loss just yet. And especially the way things are playing out right now, when you look at the standings, I don't know that a 2-loss team would cut it this year necessarily. You get Kennesaw State and Jacksonville State both 4-0. After they both won games this week, Western Kentucky 4-1. They've got a game coming up here on Saturday. They'll have New Mexico State. Now, the caveat with Western Kentucky, well, they have their quarterback on Saturday. Maverick McIver did not play last week. He's got I think a shoulder or a pectoral injury, so could be Rodney Tisdale, the redshirt freshman again, although he balled out in the game last week, ended up winning CUSA Freshman of the Week. So Western Kentucky, a team you feel like if anyone's equipped to overcome some quarterback injuries or inconsistencies, you feel like Western Kentucky is probably a team that can find a way to do that. So those are the ones that the Flames are trying to keep pace with. And again, the Flames do not see Western Kentucky this year. They will see Kennesaw later. Missouri State now 3-1. Flames will see the Bears next weekend. So again, some meaningful football game coming up here for the Flames and the Blue Hens. And shockingly, Pat, this is the first time these two teams will have ever met. And you think back to the FCS success that both of these teams had, Liberty all the conference championships, Delaware winning a national championship. You would think that these two teams, and then the proximity as well, would have crossed paths at some point, but they haven't. And this is our first look at them.
Nick, I guess all it took was, Danny Rocca going there for a stint. Manny Rojas, I shouldn't say teammate of mine, former coach of mine, going up there. So that's all it took. And then, whatever it is, 10, 12 years later, here we are. We've got our first matchup. I'm really fired up to see it because I do think this is a good Delaware team.
I do too, and we're going to get into some of their numbers here in just a minute. But when you look at Liberty and what the Flames are trying to come back from, I mean, they've got some injuries that they're dealing with after that 30-27 win over New Mexico State. We've broken that down since it happened. Come from behind win. Flames get the go-ahead touchdown in the last minute, but it came with a cost. You've lost Joseph Carter for the remainder of the year at linebacker. You've lost Trey Lawing as well, special teams presence, and you lose DJ Jackson as well on the defensive line, so you lose a little bit of depth there. Brylan Green, not expecting him to play. He won't be back yet this week at safety, although he's been active in practice, I understand. Starting to kind of ramp back up. Maybe you get him back next week for Missouri State. I don't know. But when you think of losing those kind of guys, and then you're looking at what you're going to be facing here this weekend, a Delaware offense that puts up over 400 yards a game, air raid offense, Nick Minicucci, spectacular quarterback. I mean, that alone is hard enough. But now when you think about losing these guys, I mean, who are some of the guys you're going to be looking at to step up here?
Well, Nick, the one thing that I'd call out is you're kind of losing the spine of your defense, if you will. Kind of right up the middle. You've got a guy on the D line, you've got kind of your middle backer, and then you've got Brylan Green kind of being that, that field general in the back. So it hurts that you kind of lose that spine, that middle of the field. On top of that, losing Joe Carter, I mean, your leading tackler, kind of your emotional leader out there. I think that's a pretty big loss. I think Farrar is definitely a guy that I'm going to kind of be looking to. I think he's second leading tackler on the team right now. It's easy to say CJ Bazell just because, I mean, he's kind of your playmaker on that D line. I think it's going to take kind of a complete effort from that entire D line. And then, one thing that you and I talked about before we came on is I'll be curious to see if Liberty kind of drops a spy on Minicucci just because he's got 2,000 passing yards, 13 touchdowns. But the other thing is he's got 7 rushing touchdowns this year. He's 7th nationally in total yards per game. He's a guy that I think can beat you with his legs. And I think 2 games this year, he's got 3 rushing touchdowns. So he can certainly do some damage on the ground. So I don't know that I would pinpoint a player of who is going to be that spy, but I will be very curious if this coaching staff has a spy on Minicucci heading into this game on Saturday.
And he's played well on the road, too. I mean, it's worth pointing out. I mean, 60% completion, 136 quarterback rating, 5 touchdowns, 2 picks. That's just in road games this year. So the atmosphere you don't think is going to bother him very much. Tough kid, Jersey. 6'2", 215. And actually, I was talking a little bit, you mentioned Bazille a minute ago. I was talking to him in the bye week, and CJ was just kind of getting into Delaware. He said, he reminds me a little bit of Ethan Vasco, the way that he runs the ball. He drops the shoulder. He looks for contact. Tough kid. Tough kid to bring down, too.
Yeah, and I mean that makes it's such a challenge for a defense to, of course, you're having to defend the pass, which Liberty's been pretty good at so far this year.
To the tune of 17th in the country, giving up 166 yards a game.
Nick, hit me with the rushing yards though. What's Liberty's D giving up in terms of rushing on the ground?
Yeah, not as good. They are 118th in the country in rushing defense, giving up almost 190 rushing yards per game. But that said, Delaware does not have a very good rushing offense. They're ranked 110th in the country, averaging just 120 yards on the ground a game. So again, this is Delaware's strength is also Liberty's strength. Delaware's strength on offense is Liberty's strength on defense. This air raid offense against Liberty's pass defense.
And I do think it's going to be important. Liberty struggled this year to get pressure on the quarterback. So in addition to keeping him contained, I think they are going to have to get home a couple times just because he has been so efficient throwing the football. Going to have to be able to get off the field on 3rd down. So it is certainly one thing that I'm interested in watching. This Delaware offense has been tremendous so far on 3rd down this year. They've had 3 separate games where they've been over 60% conversion on 3rd down. Keeping your offense on the field is obviously a winning formula. So I think it really is going to be big. Again, containing Minicucci, but at the same time, you're going to have to get home because he's been picking teams apart this year.
Yeah, and to your point, 3rd down conversions almost 49% for Delaware this year. That's 23rd in the country. But then conversely, Liberty, not very good on third down defensively, giving up about 42%, 95th in the country. So Flames haven't been very good on third down offensively either. So I think you're kind of starting to get into the weeds a little bit here of what may start to factor in and be some key factors in deciding the outcome of this game. I think third down conversions, turnover margin, neither team's been great there either. Delaware -5. They've actually been a little bit worse than Liberty in turnovers. The Flames have -1. Some of that might be too, Pat. Just when you throw the ball around like that, you're going to be maybe a little bit more prone to turn it over. But yeah, I think that third downs and I think turnover margin. Those are a couple of things that I'm going to be looking at here this week as far as what decides this game.
Yeah, Nick, I read a stat this morning, kind of credit to Delaware's sports information department, but under their current coach, Delaware is 21-0 when winning the turnover margin. So for Liberty, it sounds like a cliche, but you've got to come away with more takeaways on Saturday. Give yourself extra time on the field. Give yourself more chances to score because 21-0, that's not a 3-0 record, a 4-0 record. That's kind of a sustained, I guess, formula for them winning.
Yeah, it is, and we've seen this Flames team when they do turn the ball over, they're typically successful. They've done it in spurts this year. Would like to see them be able to come out and come away with some here on Saturday. Now that said, you've got some guys banged up in the secondary. Eli Hopkins been a little bit banged up here recently. Obviously, we talked about Brylan Green. Curious what the rotation is going to look like back there in the with the corners and the safeties, and just missing some guys on the defensive side of the ball. It looks like you go back to the linebacker group. Aiden Vaughn is going to be the green dot this week. That's another thing that you lose with Carter being out of this game. Is he's the guy that gets everybody lined up. And I would think in a game like this where you've got a quarterback that's as versatile as Minicucci, getting lined up correctly. Being able to check into something else, those are things that are going to be paramount here for this defense this week, is it not?
No, it definitely is. That is one of the challenges. It's why teams like Ole Miss and several of these up-tempo teams, they want to get up to the line, they want to run plays because it reduces that amount of time. Number one, for substitutions, but also to communicate. All it takes is one guy being kind of out of position. For a ball to go 60 yards. I think we might talk a little bit about the 3-3-5 defense later, which is what Delaware runs. One of the issues with a defense like that is you've got to be great tackling and you can't be out of position because all it takes is one slip and guys are taking something to the house. So similarly, it's going to be important for Liberty to communicate early so that you're able to get yourselves in position to execute. Because as we've noted in the past, Liberty has struggled with some of these chunk plays, and Delaware can certainly capitalize on that for sure.
Yeah, let's go ahead and just flip it then. I mean, let's look at that 3-3-5 defense from Delaware. Let's look at Liberty's offense. Flames total offense, the numbers, the numbers are what they are. We've talked about them. Flames 103rd in the country, averaging just 344 total yards a game. Passing offense ranked 109. Scoring offense 120, averaging just 19 points per game. However, the Flames are coming off a 30-point performance in their last time out, their first of the year. And in some ways, maybe one of Vasco's better, at least the way he finished it, was one of his better – I'll say not one of his better performances, but one of his better drives this year. When the game was on the line with a minute and change to go, he goes 7 of 7 on the last drive. We talked about that in our last podcast, connecting with Dante Lee a lot there. Ends up 20 of 30 in the game and completing 67% of his throws. But then the 2 interceptions earlier. That's the thing with him this week. You got to be careful with the football. Can't be turnover prone. But facing this 3-3-5 defense, something we talked about earlier, when you're trying to take care of the ball, you can't be confused by what you're seeing out there either. And they have a tendency, you can disguise some coverages with this 3-3-5 look. What are some of the challenges you think that Ethan's going to be facing this week?
Well, Nick, I think one of the immediate challenges, especially for, up front, so your O-line and for your quarterback, is a lot of times you'll hear of this defense as a 3-3 stack or a 3-3-5 stack. And what that means is you've got linebackers lined up basically right over top of your defensive lineman. So it's confusing for your center who's calling out who's blitzing, who's going where. It's confusing for him because a lot of times he doesn't know, okay, where is the pressure coming from? Is it coming from my left? Is it coming from the right? Is it coming right up the middle? So it can be challenging for the offensive line to know who is supposed to be blocking whom or who is supposed to kind of pass one guy off. And then similarly for a quarterback, if you don't know where pressure's coming from, it's tough to know, okay, here's my hot. This is where the ball's got to come out to, and it's got to come out quick. Um, it puts guys in conflict. And as soon as the offense is starting to have to really think rather than go out and just execute, that's when you see either quarterbacks holding on to the ball or you see, kind of double pumping, keeping the hand on the ball too long, and then throwing an ill-advised pass. So it really makes it tough to kind of put a bow on that for the offensive lineman, which then kind of makes its way back to your quarterback. So I think it's going to be important. I think we'll probably see a decent amount of quick game out of Liberty this weekend. But yeah, it makes it tough just because you don't know where pressure is coming from. You can bring pressure also from one of those 5 DBs that are on the field. Another thing, we're just dropping nuggets, I guess, for the viewership here. But in that 3-3-5 defense, a lot of times you're getting smaller guys on your D line, and you're bringing more of like the safety hybrid linebacker guy type to play linebacker. So it's going to be a more athletic defense, but they are going to be a bit smaller.
Yeah, I'm curious how much it's evolved from what Danny Rocco ran when he was here because, when Rocco first came in, it was a 3-4. It evolved to a 3-3-5. Manny Rojas played in that 3-4. He coached in that 3-3-5. I'm curious maybe what kind of spin he's put on it and just how much it's evolved in the last 10 to 15 years. You talk about what Liberty needs to do. I think Flames got to run the football. And we've talked about that so much. But when you look at Delaware's numbers, they're not good against the run. I mean, they're ranked, they're tied 95th in the country, giving up a little more than 160 yards a game, 161 rushing yards a game. You've got to be able to establish that early and find some success, and don't abandon it either. If you go, a couple drives, I wouldn't get too far away from it. Feed Evan Dickens. Hopefully, you're a little bit stronger back there now with some injuries. You've been able to overcome that in the bye week. But Dickens, one of the top rushers in this conference right now. You got to get that guy the football.
Nick, on the rushing front, you spot check me here, but I'm pretty sure Liberty has not gone over 200 yards on the ground a single time this season. I believe one time at 195 or 199 yards.
I think you're right.
But hasn't gone over 200. And that then takes me to my next point. So the run game and time of possession. 5 out of 6 games, Liberty's lost the time of possession, whereas last year or 2 years ago, that Fiesta Bowl season, you're averaging 33, 34, 35 minutes on offense, which is allowing you to wear them down and your defense to stay fresh. So Liberty struggled to stay on the field this year. I know we talked a little bit about third down already. The key to that is getting into third and manageable situations. The last 3 games, Liberty's averaging 6.9, 7, and 6.8 yards on third down to convert, which is certainly not a winning formula. You want to be in that sweet spot, 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4, so that your entire playbook is opened up.
And so those are some of the things that the Flames worked on in the bye week too. I mean, just trying to, kind of what we talked about the last time we were speculating what they might work on, but Coach Chadwell kind of talked about it was let's try to hone in on some of the things that we're really good at and get really, really good at those. And of course, red zone work, third down work, those are situational things that they spent some time on in the bye week as well. Flames' red zone offense has not been good this year, but neither has Delaware's, ironically. When you look at Delaware, and they're averaging almost 30 points a game, but they're 88th in the country in red zone offense. It's kind of weird. To your point, though, about the rushing attack, no, the Flames have not gone over 200 yards yet this year. Their closest was 199 rushing yards at Jacksonville State in a loss. But Jamie Chadwell coached teams in 187 games have rushed for 200 or more yards 102 times. So obviously what the formula is. It's not even specific to Delaware, but when you look at what Delaware's done against the run this year, man, you've got to really be able to establish a run game. And I would hope that the Flames can kind of come out this weekend, the crowd behind them, maybe get a little bit of extra whatever for the offensive line to seal to stay on those blocks a little bit longer, spring some holes for Dickens or whoever's in the backfield. And kind of be able to take advantage of that and win that time of possession war you're talking about, because sometimes the best defense is a good offense that just stays on the field, and the longer you're on the field, the less you got to worry about dealing with Nick Minicucci.
Yeah, no, for sure, Nick. And I think if I'm speaking directly to Flame fans, one thing I would say to kind of look out for this weekend, and even though it's not necessarily super sexy, is look in the box and look how Liberty's 5 or 6 offensive linemen are handling that 3-3 stack. It's going to look different than what you're used to seeing. So pay a little bit of attention to that. And then if we kind of take the lens out a little bit further, pay attention to the perimeter blocking by receivers, especially those slot guys. If they're able to seal linebackers and seal safeties, Liberty has an opportunity to really spit some big runs in the running game. So really pay attention to those two things. In the trenches, how that 3-3-5 stack looks, and then how the perimeter blocking for Liberty receivers looks.
You know what would really scare me about Delaware's defense is if Manny Rojas could actually still play.
Let me tell you, I didn't play with
them. If he
was
at linebacker back there, I would have no hope that we're going to get a run game going this week.
I was on a couple recruiting visits when he was still playing, and he was in fact terrifying. And then when I was, I think a freshman, maybe a sophomore, he was on the coaching staff, and I was still terrified of him.
But a great dude, absolute great dude. Living up in Delaware now, he's been a part of the Blue Hen staff. This is his second stint there. He's their defensive coordinator, been there since 20. And this term was there with Danny Rocco, and now obviously there with Coach Carty. But yeah, great guy, family man, does stuff for the hospitals up in Philadelphia. Actually, he's raised he and his wife have raised money for the Children's Hospital up there at Christmas the last 2 or 3 years. So just really looking forward to seeing Manny come back here. Hope to get a chance to spend a little bit of time with him either before or after the game. But texted with him a little bit the other day. He's excited. Didn't think he'd ever have the chance to get back here once Liberty moved up to FBS. And this game's crazy sometimes. So he will be able to get back here and coach at his alma mater, against his alma mater. You know, he's going to be juiced for that coming up here this Saturday. And we wish him all the best after this Saturday.
Certainly not during the game, but, afterward, all the best.
Correct. Yeah. So should be a great matchup, though. 3:30 Eastern kickoff this Saturday, Williams Stadium in Lynchburg. Homecoming weekend, Hall of Fame weekend. Gates open normal time. It'll be a 2 o'clock gate time, and then we'll have Fan Fest as well down at the indoor practice facility as always. Looking forward to seeing everybody out there. Get there early. Get your mobile tickets ready. Get the Liberty Flames mobile app downloaded to your phone if you've not done that yet. Good to have those mobile tickets ready when you walk into the gate coming up here this Saturday at Williams Stadium. Well, Pat, that's going to about wrap it up here for us. Anything else we should know about how you spent your bye week? But you mentioned you went down to Georgia. I trust you watched a lot of football, though, right?
Obviously, I mean, if there's one thing that I'm going to do that you can set your watch to, it's watching an inappropriate amount of sports, notably football. Hockey's back as well, so I watched a little bit of that. I had my 7-week-old, probably had a little too much screen time while I was standing there holding him, watching some football and some hockey, but, he'll be all right.
That's all right. He can't tell the difference yet.
we have to baptize him into some sports somehow, so this is just the first step in there.
Yeah, I used to watch pro wrestling when Grayson was about his age, and he's 2 now. But yeah, when he was little, he didn't have any idea what was on the TV. But there were so many flashing lights with the wrestlers walking out in the entrances. I think it just kind of sucked him in. It was like a tractor beam, And
now he's putting you in a figure 4 and in a full Nelson headlock too.
Yeah, that's part of our nightly ritual now is wrestle time with Daddy. So. Hit that follow button, subscribe if you like the tomfoolery you've heard on this podcast today, and hopefully some of the analysis too. Hit that follow button, subscribe to the Liberty Flames podcast, powered by Rogers Heating and Cooling, servicing Greater Lynchburg's HVAC and electrical needs. Schedule your service at callrogers.com. Pat Kelly will be on TV this weekend, ESPN Plus, right?
I think so.
Yeah. It's what, a day away? You better find that out for sure. Yeah, you'll be on TV for the pregame, postgame shows, and then I'll be on the radio as well. Our radio coverage starts at 2 o'clock Eastern on Saturday on the Liberty Flame Sports Network from Van Wagner. So appreciate you stopping by. This has been Double Coverage on the Liberty Flames podcast. Again, hit the follow button, subscribe, and we will talk to you next time. Looking forward to homecoming weekend. So long, everybody.
You've been listening to Double Coverage with Nick Pierce and Pat Kelly. Hit the subscribe button and listen each week to this and all podcasts on the Liberty Flames podcast channel from Van Wagner on the Liberty Flames Sports Network.